They don't seem to fact check Joe Biden in Pennsylvania yesterday or the day before when he says, I'm not against fracking. I'm like, well, here's you on that same debate stage, Joe, saying that you'd eliminate fossil fuels, that you said no new fracking. Here's you talking to another woman saying, we're going to eliminate it all. I mean, there's 50 clips of him saying exactly the opposite. But because fracking is an important issue in Pennsylvania, that is a swing state, the media will literally run with the lie there. Where it's more of a sensitive issue, they'll run with exactly the opposite and pretend as though both of them are true, just depending on who they're selling to. They're not fact checking. This is an egregious lie. There's tape all over the place. Not one fact check called him out on it. Not one social media site took him down for dishonesty. They let him run the clip as though it's true.
Let's just do the Kamala thing here for a minute, because were you guys, when I say you guys, the Trump organization, the campaign, your dad, what was the feeling when it came out that it was Kamala? Because on one hand, I think she's probably not as full, say, communist, Marxist, whatever that Bernie thing is. But as you just pointed out, her voting record is pretty far left. And she's an authoritarian. She did that line that I keep bringing up in the debate where they asked Biden, will you do an executive action on guns? And he said, well, anything I would do would have to be constitutional, which of course is the right answer. And she looked at him and laughed in his face. And now this is the person who is now his VP. How did you guys feel about the choice?
Listen, I sort of think it's a great thing, right? Because you know where her record is. I mean, she's literally left the Bernie in voting record. She doesn't care about those sorts of things, as you said. It's she's also so disingenuous. She's just, you see that she's a phony. It's just been pure ambition for her whole life. And, that's not a terrible trait, but it is when you basically sell out all of your principles to get there. So for us, I think it's actually a great choice. But the media also agrees, because the media also wanted her to be number one. That's who they were pushing for from moment number one. Now, she's terrible on the stage. She's not so warm. She's, just a terrible candidate, really. But for us, I love it because everyone believes she's the one that's going to be in charge. It's sort of, Joe Biden picking her after she. Now, I got fact checked for this. They told me that they threw me off Instagram for this one because I said she called him a racist and she's said to believe his sexual assault accusers. Because, again, remember, when someone accuses Joe Biden, even though there's corroborating evidence, much more so, that doesn't count. Only those who accuse Trump of something with no evidence, with no corroboration, with all nonsense, that's to be believed. But when it happens to Joe Biden from a Senate staffer, no, nothing to see here. But she did those things, and you saw her absolutely demolish him on the debate stage as it related to his racial decisions and his history there. And I get into that in the book a lot. But I said, well, she called him a racist, and she said to believe his sexual assault accusers. So, of course, that gets fact-checked. Well, she didn't call him a racist. I go, what do you mean? They go, well, she didn't say the words racist. I go, yeah, but she went on a 5-minute diatribe about how he supported busing, how he partied with segregationists, she did literally everything but. No reasonable person in the world would assume that she meant anything other than, I think Joe Biden's a racist, but they can fact-check you as false. They don't seem to fact check Joe Biden in Pennsylvania yesterday or the day before when he says, I'm not against fracking. I'm like, well, here's you on that same debate stage, Joe, saying that you'd eliminate fossil fuels, that you said no new fracking. Here's you talking to another woman saying, we're going to eliminate it all. I mean, there's 50 clips of him saying exactly the opposite. But because fracking is an important issue in Pennsylvania, that is a swing state, the media will literally run with the lie there. Where it's more of a sensitive issue, they'll run with exactly the opposite and pretend as though both of them are true, just depending on who they're selling to. They're not fact checking. This is an egregious lie. There's tape all over the place. Not one fact check called him out on it. Not one social media site took him down for dishonesty. They let him run the clip as though it's true. It's on his platform. Just go look at his website. So, again, part of the whole thing, that's liberal privilege. You can have the best of all worlds. It doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter. We are going to sell to the American public whatever it is that they want to hear to be able to effectuate the change that they want, which is to put Joe Biden in office or whoever his puppet masters really are.
So is the best example of that the exact video that Biden launched his campaign with, which was the Charlottesville video? And he's basically saying your dad is supporting white supremacists when, of course, and no matter how many times we talk about this, it never makes it to mainstream media. The sentence before your dad said find people on both sides. And of course, what he meant was of the statue debate. He completely condemned the KKK and the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis and everything else. But the media ran cover for Biden on that. So in Biden's mind, or whatever's left of it, he was just like, all right, well, I can just keep running on live.
Hey, why not run with it? I mean, they'll do whatever it takes to win. It's no problem, right? That's what they're going to do. By the way, they brought that up at the DNC multiple times, as though literally, you're right, the first sentence led up to it, so it was clear before. It wasn't like he made a mistake and recovered. It was very clear to begin with. They play one portion of the clip, and then they forget about the second sentence, which was, and of course, I'm condemning the white supremacists and the crazy people that were there, because it wasn't all that. But they run with it as though it's the gospel. I mean, it's the same thing in the media. They're still running, Dave, with Russia collusion. They're still pretending like that's a real thing. Notice how no one has any interest in like looking into Comey and the FBI and Obama and Biden himself unmasking us. It's the first time we've had a non-peaceful transition of power, a great, great, great American tradition for 240-something years. Nothing to see here, folks. Now, it was a big deal for 3 years when they thought it worked the other way, when it worked against Trump, when they could do that. I mean, you see the testimony of these clowns. I mean, under oath, they say X. On CNN later that day, they say exactly the opposite because no one's going to hold them accountable. They know it's not true because they're literally under oath saying the opposite. But guess what? We get a CNN job. How about, the Comeys and the McCabe's? These guys lied to Congress. Well, it's really bad. You shouldn't lie to Congress, but nothing to see here. I'd be in jail if I lied to Congress. They get paid big bucks to then be a CNN contributor. I mean, they're rewarded for treason. They're awarded for lying to the country and to the American people. That's sort of what we're up against. And again, that's why I took it upon myself to do this book when I had no intention to do it, because I've been a part of it. If you didn't believe in the deep state, if you didn't believe in sort of these big government things prior to 2016, you know what? I get it. If you don't now, if you think that these people are truly just trying to represent you and they're not just taking care of themselves, you're out of your mind. Look at what my father's tried to do, pulling troops out of Afghanistan, ending these never-ending wars that our own generals can't even tell us why we're there anymore. They start leaking opposition research. Trump is getting soft on Russia. What? There's more sanctions on Russia than any administration in American history. But they do that because they want to stay in endless wars, because they don't care about sending nice kids from middle America to go lose life and limb abroad so they can keep the military-industrial complex going. And that's not just Democrats. They're a big part of it, but it's also the neocons and sort of the never-Trump Republicans that hate that he's getting out. You know why? Because they want to be on the board of Raytheon for $500,000 a year. They'll do whatever it takes. They'll get their board seat. They'll do that. All of their friends get rich, sending our kids to die for something that we don't even know why we're there. And it never ends. Trump tries to pull out of these things, and you literally have people in Congress trying to literally stop him from doing it. And it's so obvious. And yet, again, nothing to see here, folks.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.